Every morning just after sunrise, people in the neighborhood witness something impossible. A tiny girl, no older than 5, walking 6 massive German Shepherd police dogs as if they were her personal army. Traffic stops, sidewalks freeze. Everyone whispers the same question: who is this child? She never smiles, never speaks to strangers, never looks afraid. And the dogs, every single one of them, treat her like she's the most valuable target in the world. Some thought it was heartwarming, some thought it was bizarre, but no one, absolutely no one, knew the truth. People tried approaching her. They waved, smiled, offered friendly greetings. But the moment anyone stepped too close, all 6 dogs would form an impenetrable wall, their bodies tense, their eyes locked on the stranger with a warning that needed no translation. Back, away, now. But one cold winter morning, when a retired police officer began quietly observing her routine, what he uncovered next sent shockwaves through the entire city. The little girl was hiding a secret so devastating, so unbelievable, that when the truth finally surfaced, it would turn Willowbrook into a battlefield. Stay with us because this story will leave you breathless. But before we dive into this story, welcome to Fable Room Stories, and please don't forget to like and subscribe to this channel because I spend hours editing and crafting this video. Thanks for your support. Now let's dive back into the story. The neighborhood of Willowbrook was the kind of place where mornings usually felt safe and ordinary. Coffee brewing in kitchens, children waiting for school buses, joggers tracing familiar routes along tree-lined streets. But recently, something extraordinary had begun happening every single day at exactly 7:15 a.m. Something that made conversations stop mid-word, drivers slow to a crawl, and shop owners step outside with mouths slightly open. Because right when the church bell chimed its first morning note, a tiny little girl, no more than 5 years old, would appear at the corner of Maple Street wearing a vibrant red coat. Her light brown hair pulled into a slightly messy ponytail. Her small hands gripped a bundle of leashes, their thick straps fanning out like spokes of a wheel. And on the other end of those leashes walked 6 enormous German Shepherds, each one muscular, alert, and unmistakably elite police K9s. Together they moved with military precision, like a tactical unit that had trained for years. The dogs formed a protective perimeter around the child, their steps measured and deliberate, their eyes constantly scanning rooftops, parked cars, shadowed doorways. The instant someone approached too quickly, whether a friendly neighbor, a curious cyclist, or an early morning jogger, one of the dogs would smoothly shift position, blocking the person's path with quiet, uncompromising authority. But the strangest part? The little girl didn't seem afraid of them at all. In fact, they obeyed her. She'd occasionally tug a leash or whisper a command so soft it was almost inaudible, and 6 elite police-trained German Shepherds would respond instantly, as if her tiny voice carried the same weight as a decorated K9 handler. People tried engaging with her. They waved enthusiastically, bent down with warm smiles, called out cheerful good mornings. But she always responded the same way, with a polite nod, a tight, almost sad smile, and a quick lowering of her eyes before continuing her route. Never stopping, never explaining, never letting anyone close. It didn't take long for the rumors to explode. "That girl must be the police chief's daughter," one woman insisted while loading groceries into her car. No, those dogs are retired K9s," a man argued at the corner coffee shop. "Someone's fostering them and she's just helping with morning walks." Others weren't convinced. They'd seen too much. The way the dogs scanned the environment wasn't casual. It was tactical. The way they positioned themselves around her wasn't protective, it was defensive. And the way that little girl carried herself, with a discipline and seriousness that no 5-year-old should possess, suggested something far more troubling than a simple morning routine. Something was very, very wrong in Willowbrook, and Dawn Dixon was at the center of it. By the 3rd day, someone pulled out a phone. It started innocently enough. A young mother named Jessica Chen, waiting at the crosswalk with her son, held up her iPhone and captured a quick 15-second clip. Dawn passing by with her 6-dog escort, the red coat bright against the gray morning sidewalk, the dogs moving like synchronized shadows. Jessica posted it to the Willowbrook community Facebook group with a simple caption: "Has anyone else seen this? Who is she?" Within an hour, the post had 300 comments. By noon, the video had been shared 47 times. By evening, it had jumped to local Twitter, then Instagram, then TikTok, where a teenager added dramatic music in the text, "POV, you see the most mysterious girl in your neighborhood, and nobody knows who she is." The next morning, there were cameras everywhere. At least a dozen people positioned themselves along Maple Street, phones ready, ring lights attached, trying to get the perfect angle. Dawn appeared at exactly 7:15 a.m. I just like always, and suddenly she was walking through a gauntlet of flashing screens and whispered commentary. The dog's ears flattened, their scanning intensified, but Dawn didn't break stride. She just kept walking, eyes forward, hands steady on those 6 leather leashes. Mystery Canine Girl, someone dubbed her, and the name stuck like glue. The videos multiplied. Close-ups of the dog's muscular builds, slow-motion clips of their synchronized steps. Theories flooded the comment sections. She's got to be connected to the police. Maybe she's in witness protection. Those dogs cost $10,000 each to train. Who's funding this? One viral TikTok, shot from a second-story window, showed Dawn's entire route mapped out with ominous music and the caption, Day 7, still no answers. Local news picked it up on Thursday. Channel 9 sent a junior reporter named Marcus Webb to do a 30-second human interest piece for the morning broadcast. He approached with his cameraman, smile wide, microphone extended. "Excuse me, sweetheart, can we ask you a few—" 3 dogs stepped forward in perfect unison. No barking this time, just a wall of muscle and warning. Marcus froze mid-sentence, the smile melting off his face. The cameraman kept rolling, capturing the moment when a grown man backed away from a 5-year-old girl because her guards made it clear she was untouchable. That clip went even more viral than the rest. Journalist gets shut down by police dogs protecting mystery girl racked up 2 million views in 24 hours. But while the internet debated and theorized and laughed and gasped, very few people noticed the black SUV with tinted windows that had started appearing on the opposite side of the street, or the way it idled just a little too long at the corner of Maple and 5th, or the way the dog's attention had shifted. Less focused on curious neighbors, more focused on that dark vehicle that never quite left. Emma Reyes noticed, though. The investigative reporter had been watching for 3 days now, taking notes from her parked sedan 2 blocks away. And unlike everyone else filming for clicks and likes, Emma was asking a different question entirely. Not who is this girl, but who is hunting her. Emma Reyes had covered stories that made politicians sweat and corporations lawyer up. She'd interviewed gang members, corrupt officials, victims of trafficking. She didn't scare easily. But standing at the corner of Maple and 5th at 7:13 a.m., on a Friday morning watching that little girl approach with her 6-dog army, Emma felt something she rarely experienced. Genuine unease. She'd done her homework, spent 2 days making calls, pulling favors, digging through public records. No Dawn Dixon registered in any local school. No parents matching that name on property records in Willowbrook. The dogs? Registered to the Willowbrook Police Department K9 unit. But according to her source at the precinct, all 6 had been listed as retired 8 months ago following the death of their handlers in a training incident. That word. Incident. It always meant someone was hiding something. Emma positioned herself on the sidewalk, notepad visible, body language open and non-threatening. When Dawn rounded the corner in that red coat, Emma took a careful step forward. "Hi there," she said, voice gentle, maternal almost. "My name's Emma. I'm a reporter and I was hoping—" The reaction was instant and surgical. All 6 dogs stopped moving. Dawn stopped too, her small hand tightening on the leashes. Then, like a perfectly choreographed defensive maneuver, 3 dogs, the ones Emma would later learn were Axel, Nova, and Ranger, stepped forward, forming a barrier between Emma and the child. Their bodies were rigid. Their eyes locked onto Emma with an intensity that made her breath catch. No barking, no growling. Somehow, that made it worse. "I just want to ask a few questions," Emma continued, keeping her voice steady. "About where you live, who takes care of—" Axel, the largest of the 3, took one deliberate step closer. His ears were forward. His weight shifted to his front legs. Emma had seen enough police K9 demonstrations to recognize a pre-attack stance when she saw one. She raised both hands slowly, notepad dangling from her fingers. Okay, I'm backing up." Dawn's voice, when it finally came, was barely above a whisper. "They don't like strangers. I can see that," Emma said, taking 2 careful steps backward. "Can you at least tell me your name?" For a brief moment, something flickered across the little girl's face. Not fear, not defiance, something heavier. Sadness, maybe. Or exhaustion. "Dawn," she said quietly. "Dawn, are you safe? Do you need help?" The question hung in the cold morning air. Dawn's eyes, they were too old for a 5-year-old's face, Emma realized, met Emma's for just a heartbeat. Then she tugged the leashes, and the wall of dogs shifted smoothly back into formation. "I have to go," Dawn whispered. "They're watching. Who's watching?" But Dawn was already moving, the dogs flowing around her like trained soldiers escorting a head of state. Emma stood frozen on the sidewalk, her journalist's instincts screaming. That wasn't the response of a child playing pretend with pets. That was the response of someone living under protection, or under siege. Emma pulled out her phone and typed a quick text to her police contact. Need everything you have on Daniel and Mia Hartwell, undercover officers. Died 8 months ago. The response came back in under a minute. How do you know those names? That case is sealed. Emma's jaw tightened as she watched Dawn disappear around the corner. Because their daughter is still alive, and I think someone wants her dead. Gerald Hawkins had been watching from his porch for over a week now, and what he saw made his old cop instincts flare like nerve damage from a decades-old bullet wound. 32 years with the police force, 15 of those in tactical operations. He knew the difference between a well-trained pet and a working K9. He also knew the difference between basic obedience and something far more serious, close protection protocol. That Saturday morning, when Dawn made her usual pass down Maple Street, Gerald finally stood up from his rocking chair and walked to the sidewalk's edge. He didn't approach. He just watched, counting heartbeats, measuring angles, noting the way the dogs never all looked in the same direction at once, the way they maintained overlapping fields of vision, the way the rear dog, the darker shepherd he'd later learn was Duke, kept glancing backward every 7 to 9 seconds like clockwork. When Emma Reyes pulled up 20 minutes later, he'd seen her lurking in her sedan all week. Gerald waved her over. You're the reporter, he said. Statement, not question. Emma approached cautiously, press credentials visible on a lanyard around her neck. Gerald Hawkins? I saw your name on some old commendations at the precinct. You worked K9 units, among other things. Gerald gestured toward the now empty street where Dawn had walked. You know what you're looking at? A little girl with 6 dogs? No. His voice went flat, professional. You're looking at a mobile security detail executing high-value target protection. Those dogs aren't walking that child for exercise. They're running a tactical security sweep every single morning. Emma's pen froze over her notepad. You're sure? I trained K9 teams for 12 years. I know sector scanning when I see it. Gerald pointed down the street. Watch tomorrow. The lead dog, big male, tan saddle marking, he's clearing the forward zone. The 2 flanking dogs are covering lateral threats. The 3 rear dogs are watching the 6, 9, and 12 o'clock positions. That's not instinct. That's programming. Programming for what? Gerald's jaw tightened. For when someone tries to take her. The words settled between them like frost. Emma felt her pulse quicken. You think she's in danger? I think someone already tried. Gerald pulled a folded newspaper clipping from his shirt pocket. 8 months old. A small article buried on page 7. 2 undercover officers killed in house fire. Investigation ongoing. Daniel and Mia Hartwell. Emma breathed, recognizing the names from her research. Those were their K9s. All 6 of them. Gerald's voice dropped. And if those dogs are still on protection detail 8 months after their handlers died, it means the threat didn't die with them. Someone gave those animals a final mission, keep that little girl alive. Emma stared down the empty street. Until what? Until whoever killed her parents finishes the job. Gerald folded his arms, his weathered face grim. I've seen protective details before, but I've never seen dogs maintain that level of intensity for 8 months straight unless they know, absolutely know, that the danger is still active. Still hunting. Emma's hand trembled slightly as she wrote. What do we do? You? Nothing. You get too close, those dogs will put you in the hospital. Gerald's eyes were hard. Me? I'm going to make some calls. Because if I'm right, that little girl isn't just being protected, then what is she? Bait. It appeared on Monday morning at 7:11 a.m., 4 minutes before Dawn's usual route. A black Cadillac Escalade with tinted windows so dark they looked like sheets of obsidian. It rolled slowly down Maple Street and parked in a spot that offered a clear sight line to the corner where Dawn always emerged. The engine idled. No one got out. Jessica Chen noticed it first. She'd been filming Dawn's walks for her growing TikTok following, and something about that SUV made her skin prickle. Too new, too expensive for this neighborhood, too deliberately positioned. When Dawn appeared at 7:15, the dogs sensed it immediately. The change was instantaneous and terrifying. The measured, synchronized walk dissolved into something else entirely. All 6 shepherds went rigid, their hackles rising in unison like a wave of aggression rolling down their backs. Axel's head dropped low, his teeth visible. Nova released a sound that wasn't quite a bark, more like a warning snarl that carried down the entire block. Dawn's small hand tightened on the leashes, her knuckles white against the leather. She didn't run, didn't cry out. But her pace quickened, and the dogs formed a tighter circle around her, their bodies pressed close, their attention laser-focused on that idling SUV. The vehicle began to move, slowly, deliberately, pacing them from across the street. Emma Reyes, parked 2 blocks down, saw it happening and immediately started her engine. Gerald Hawkins, watching from his porch with binoculars, was already on his phone calling 911. "This is retired Officer Gerald Hawkins, badge number 4729. I have a potential kidnapping in progress, Maple Street, between 5th and 6th. Black Escalade, no plates visible, tailing a minor with K9 protection detail. Suspect vehicle is maintaining pursuit distance." The SUV suddenly accelerated. It jumped the curb, tires screeching, cutting diagonally across a front lawn to get ahead of Dawn's position. The dogs exploded into a frenzy of barking. Duke and Blitz lunged forward, their leashes straining, their bodies forming a physical barrier between Dawn and the vehicle. Sable positioned herself directly behind the child, nudging her backward with her massive head. Dawn stumbled, nearly falling, but Ranger was already there, his body bracing her weight. The Escalade's passenger window rolled down 6 inches, just enough for someone inside to see, to confirm, to mark the target. Then it peeled away, tires smoking, disappearing around the corner at a speed that sent garbage cans tumbling and set off a car alarm. The dogs didn't relax. Even after the vehicle vanished, they remained in full defensive posture, scanning, searching, their training overriding everything else. Dawn stood frozen in the center of their protective circle, her small chest heaving, her red coat the only spot of color in a suddenly gray morning. Emma reached them first, her car screeching to a stop. "Dawn, get in the car, now!" But the dogs wouldn't let her. Axel blocked Emma's path, his stance making it clear, no one touches the girl. "Please," Dawn whispered, her voice cracking for the first time. "They're coming back. They always come back." 8 months earlier. The clock on the kitchen wall read 11:47 p.m. when Daniel Hartwell heard the sound that changed everything, the soft scrape of metal against the back door lock. Someone picking it. Professional. Quiet. "Mia," he whispered, his hand already moving to the service weapon hidden in the kitchen drawer. "They're here." His wife appeared in the doorway, still in her undercover clothes, her face going pale. They'd known this moment was coming. The Black Viper ring didn't forgive betrayal, and Daniel and Mia had just delivered 47 pages of evidence to the FBI documenting Victor Drago's entire operation. Money laundering, arms trafficking, 3 murders. They'd thought they had time, thought witness protection would come through before Drago's people found them. They were wrong. "Dawn," Mia breathed, already moving toward the stairs, but Daniel caught her arm. "No time. Protocol 7, now." They'd drilled for this, prayed they'd never need it. Daniel moved to the back room where all 6 dogs slept in their kennels. Axel, Nova, Ranger, Blitz, Sable, Duke, his partners, his family. He opened each door and the shepherds emerged, instantly alert, reading the tension in his body. Daniel dropped to one knee, holding Axel's face between his hands. "Final mission," he whispered, his voice cracking. "Protect Dawn. Priority 1, no exceptions. Threat level, critical. Duration, until elimination of hostile targets." The words were part of their training vocabulary, commands hardwired into years of conditioning. But this was different. This wasn't a drill. This was a father saying goodbye. Mia came down the stairs carrying Dawn, their 5-year-old daughter still half asleep in her pink pajamas. "Mommy, what's happening? Baby, listen to me." Mia's hands shook as she knelt, pressing something small and hard into Dawn's palm. A GPS tracker disguised as a dog collar charm. "You're going to go with the dogs now. They're going to keep you safe. No matter what happens, you stay with them. You understand?" "But where are you?" Glass shattered in the living room. Heavy footsteps. Multiple targets. "Go!" Daniel shoved open the side door leading to the garage. "Axel, execute. Move!" The dogs understood. All 6 surrounded Dawn, forming an impenetrable circle. Nova grabbed the back of Dawn's pajama shirt gently in her teeth, guiding her forward. Dawn reached back, crying, but the dogs were already pushing her through the door, into the garage, toward the neighbor's yard where the fence had a loose board. Behind them, Mia's voice, "We love you, baby." "We'll always." The explosion turned night into day. Daniel had triggered the gas line, sacrificing everything to buy his daughter 30 seconds. Flames consumed the house in a roaring wave. Screams, gunfire, the acrid smell of accelerant. And through it all, 6 German shepherds ran, a little girl in pink pajamas crying between them, carrying the evidence that would someday end the people who'd just murdered her parents. By the time the fire trucks arrived, the house was ash. 2 bodies were found inside, burned beyond recognition. A third man, one of Drago's enforcers, dead from smoke inhalation near the back door. But Dawn Dixon, age 5, was never found, because her guardians had orders, and police dogs never abandoned their mission. Emma's phone buzzed at 2:34 a.m., pulling her from a restless sleep. A text from an unknown number. No words, just an image. Her own apartment building, taken from across the street, taken tonight. Her blood went cold. She grabbed her laptop, fingers flying across the keyboard, running a reverse image search, checking metadata, trying to trace the source. Nothing. Scrubbed clean, professional. The second message came 5 minutes later. Stop digging. The third at 2:41 a.m. or join the Hartwells. Emma's hands trembled as she screenshot everything, forwarding it immediately to Gerald Hawkins and her editor. She checked every lock on her apartment door twice, wedged a chair under the handle, and didn't sleep for the rest of the night. But that was just the warning shot. The real attack came at dawn. Emma's phone exploded with notifications, text messages, calls, her social media accounts lighting up like a switchboard on fire. She opened Twitter and felt her stomach drop. Someone had taken one of Jessica Chen's viral videos, the one showing Dawn's face clearly, and edited it. A red crosshair now pulsed over the little girl's head. The caption read, "Found you." It had been posted from a burner account 2 hours ago. Already it had been shared 800 times. Emma called Gerald immediately. They've marked her. They've put a target on her face and spread it across the internet. I'm calling the precinct. It gets worse. Emma's voice cracked as she scrolled through the comments. Most were horrified, calling for the post to be taken down, but others made her skin crawl. There are people responding, asking for location details, street names. Someone posted the Willowbrook Community Facebook group. They're narrowing it down, Gerald. They're crowdsourcing her location. Jesus Christ. Emma kept scrolling, her reporter's mind cataloging every detail. Then she saw it. A comment from an account called vdrago47, Maple Street, 7:15 a.m. every morning like clockwork. Thanks for the intel, internet. The account disappeared 30 seconds later, deleted, gone, but the message was clear. Emma grabbed her car keys, still in her pajamas, and drove to Maple Street, doing 20 over the speed limit. It was 6:52 a.m. She parked directly on the corner where Dawn always appeared and sat there, engine running, 911 pre-dialed on her phone. Gerald's truck pulled up 7 minutes later. Then 2 more vehicles, neighbors Emma recognized from her surveillance. Word was spreading. People who'd been watching the mystery K9 girl for entertainment were suddenly realizing this wasn't a game. At 7:10, a Willowbrook patrol car arrived, 2 officers stepping out with skeptical expressions. We got a call about a potential threat. She'll be here in 5 minutes, Emma said, pointing down the street, and so will they. At 7:13, the black Escalade appeared again. This time it wasn't alone. A second vehicle, a dark blue sedan with rental plates, parked 1 block south. The trap was closing. Emma's hand tightened on her phone. Dawn, she whispered to the empty street. Please don't come. Please, just this once, break your routine. But at exactly 7:15 a.m., a little girl in a red coat rounded the corner with 6 dogs. And every predator was waiting. A scream came from 2 blocks away. A woman's voice raw with panic. Somebody help, they took my son! Dawn froze mid-step. The dogs' heads snapped toward the sound in unison, their training screaming at them to respond. A child in danger, their secondary protocol. But Axel didn't move. His body remained locked in position around Dawn, even as his ears pivoted toward the distant screaming. Emma saw it happening and understood immediately. It's a diversion, she shouted to the patrol officers. Don't let her. Too late. The black Escalade accelerated from its position, engine roaring, heading straight for Dawn. At the same moment, the blue sedan peeled out from the opposite direction, creating a pincer movement. The dogs had seconds to decide, pursue the threat or maintain position. Axel made the call. Nova, Duke, engage. His bark wasn't a sound Dawn had ever heard before. It was a command. Nova and Duke broke formation, launching themselves at the approaching Escalade with terrifying speed. The SUV swerved, its driver not expecting 2 90-pound projectiles of fur and fury to come at him head-on. Nova hit the driver's side door with enough force to dent the metal. Her teeth found the side mirror, ripping it clean off. Duke went low, targeting the front tire, his powerful jaws puncturing rubber with the explosive hiss. The Escalade spun out, smoke pouring from the wheel well. But the sedan was still coming. 3 men burst out before it even stopped moving. 2 wore ski masks. 1 carried a tactical baton. They weren't trying to be subtle anymore. This was an extraction team going loud. Ranger and Blitz hit them like a tactical missile strike. The first man went down hard, Ranger's teeth locked around his forearm, bones cracking audibly. The man's baton clattered to the pavement. The second tried to spray something, pepper spray or mace, but Blitz was already inside his guard, her 100 pounds of muscle slamming him into a parked car with enough force to spiderweb the window. The third man pulled a gun. Axel saw it, released a sound that was pure violence, and moved. He crossed 15 feet in under 2 seconds, hitting the gunman's wrist just as the weapon rose. The gun discharged into the air. The man screamed. Axel didn't let go. His training focused on disarm and neutralize. The weapon fell. Sable was there instantly, her body covering it, denying access. The patrol officers finally moved, weapons drawn, shouting commands. Emma threw her car into drive, pulling up directly beside Dawn. Get in the car, now! This time the dogs allowed it, because the threat was contained, because backup had arrived, because 4 of them were holding 3 men on the ground while sirens wailed in the distance. Dawn scrambled into Emma's back seat, tears streaming down her face. The boy, she sobbed. They took a boy. There is no boy, sweetheart. Gerald appeared at the passenger window, his old service weapon still in his hand. It was recorded, a loop played over speakers. They tried to split your protection detail. Dawn's small voice was hollow. Did it work? Emma looked in the rearview mirror at the carnage on Maple Street. 3 attackers subdued, 2 vehicles disabled. 6 dogs standing guard, uninjured, waiting for their next command. No, baby, she whispered. Your parents trained them too well. The 3 men arrested on Maple Street didn't talk. Professionals never did. But Duke had something they didn't account for, his collar. When the FBI tech ran a diagnostic on all 6 dogs' equipment, she found it embedded in the leather. A GPS tracker with 8 months of location data. Every place the dogs had been, every route they'd walked, and one location that appeared 17 times in the past month, always between midnight and 3 a.m., an abandoned textile factory on the industrial edge of Willowbrook. That's where they've been taking her, Gerald said, studying the map in the FBI's mobile command center. The dogs were doing reconnaissance, mapping the enemy position. The SWAT commander, a hard-faced woman named Captain Torres, looked skeptical. You're telling me these animals have been running night ops without handlers? Daniel and Mia Hartwell were the best K-9 officers in 3 states, Gerald replied. They programmed one final mission into these dogs. Protect their daughter and eliminate the threat. The dogs have been gathering intelligence for 8 months. Now they're ready to finish it. Torres looked at Dawn, sitting in the back of an FBI van wrapped in a blanket, all 6 shepherds surrounding her. We can't bring a child to a tactical raid. You won't have to. Emma pointed to Axel. They know where Drago is. Let them lead. The raid launched at 4:47 a.m. SWAT moved in 3 teams, night vision active, suppressed weapons ready, but the dogs moved faster. Axel took point with Nova and Ranger, their bodies low, their movements silent. They knew this building, had mapped every entrance, every blind spot, every defensive position during their midnight reconnaissance runs. The first guard never saw them coming. Ranger took him down without a sound. The second guard managed to shout a warning before Blitz's jaws closed around his ankle, dragging him backward into darkness. SWAT poured through the breached entrance. Flashbangs detonated. Orders were shouted. 3 more of Drago's men went down in the first 30 seconds, 2 surrendering immediately when they saw the dogs, 1 foolish enough to raise a weapon before Duke disarmed him the hard way. Victor Drago was in the back office, already moving toward a rear exit when Axel found him. The shepherd didn't bark, didn't growl, just moved with lethal purpose across the concrete floor. Drago spun, raising a pistol, finger already tightening on the trigger. Axel hit him like a freight train. The gun discharged into the ceiling. Drago went down hard, his head cracking against metal shelving. Axel's jaws clamped around his shooting arm, pinning it to the floor. The man screamed, tried to fight, but 100 pounds of trained aggression wasn't letting go. Freeze! FBI! Torres and her team poured in, weapons trained. But Axel held position, his eyes locked on Drago's face with an intensity that was almost human, almost like he recognized this man. Like he knew this was the one who'd given the order, the one who'd burned his handlers alive, the one who'd hunted their daughter for 8 months. Good boy, Torres whispered, moving to secure Drago. Stand down, soldier. Mission accomplished. Axel's jaws remained closed for 3 more seconds, making absolutely certain. Then he released, stepped back, and for the first time in 8 months, his tail wagged once. The threat was eliminated. Dawn was safe. Daniel and Mia Hartwell could rest. The FBI tech found it 3 hours after the raid while processing the dog's equipment as evidence. Duke's collar had a hidden compartment, so expertly concealed that it had survived 8 months of daily wear, weather, and violence. Inside was a micro SD card, 47 pages of encrypted financial records, wire transfer receipts, offshore account numbers, communications between Victor Drago and 3 state senators, 2 judges, and a dozen shell corporations. Everything Daniel and Mia Hartwell had died to protect. Everything the Black Viper ring had killed to suppress. Victor Drago's empire collapsed in 72 hours. Federal indictments rained down like artillery, assets frozen, associates arrested across 4 states. The syndicate that had seemed untouchable disintegrated under the weight of evidence 2 dead officers had carried beyond the grave, hidden in the collar of a loyal shepherd who'd walked it through danger every single morning for 8 months. Willowbrook erupted. The town that had filmed Dawn for viral content now rallied around her with fierce protective devotion. A GoFundMe for her care hit $200,000 in 6 hours. The mayor declared it K9 Heroes Day. Someone painted a mural on the side of Garcia's grocery store. Dawn, in her red coat, surrounded by 6 guardian angels with fur and fangs. Jessica Chen, who'd started it all with a 15-second video, organized a parade. Thousands lined Maple Street as Dawn walked her route one final time, not in secrecy, but in celebration. Axel, Nova, Ranger, Blitz, Sable, and Duke wore ceremonial medals around their necks. Children threw flowers. Adults wept openly. Emma Reyes, who'd been offered a national news position for breaking the story, declined. She stayed in Willowbrook, became Dawn's legal guardian, bought a house with a big yard where 6 retired police dogs could finally rest. 3 months later, on a quiet Sunday morning, Emma drove Dawn to Riverside Cemetery. The memorial stone was simple granite, engraved with 2 names, Daniel and Mia Hartwell, beloved officers, devoted parents, heroes. Dawn knelt in the grass, her red coat replaced now with a purple one Emma had bought her. The dogs arranged themselves in a semicircle behind her, not in defensive formation this time, but in honor guard. Axel rested his massive head on Dawn's shoulder. "I'm safe now," Dawn whispered to the stone. "The bad people are gone. The dogs did what you asked them to do." Her small hand reached up, stroking Axel's fur. "They kept me alive, Mommy. Daddy, just like you told them to." The morning sun broke through the clouds, warm and golden. Somewhere in the distance, a church bell chimed. Emma watched from beside the car, giving the child her moment. Watched as Dawn stood, kissed her fingertips, pressed them to both names on the stone. Watched as 6 elite German shepherds, who'd walked through fire, fought through violence, and never abandoned their mission, finally relaxed their shoulders. The promise was kept. The mission was complete. And a little girl who'd walked her police dogs through darkness every morning for 8 months could finally walk into the light. Dawn turned back toward Emma, a real smile breaking across her face for the first time. "Can we go home now?" "Yeah, baby," Emma said, her voice thick. "We can go home."